Hi, Scorpio. This is Gina. Thank you for joining me today. I'm excited to talk to you about the current astrology. There's a lot going on right now. Basically, I have two different parts of my channel. I have the horoscopes that I do each month, and then I also have these daily astrology chat lives that I do every day. I'm here live, and this is a chance just to check in more casually. And usually I don't do those by sign. Those are usually relevant for everyone. But there's so much going on in the astrology in February, March, and April, especially, that I just kind of wanted to take this opportunity to check in with every sign. So please feel free to leave any questions in the chat or in the comments if you're watching this later, and I will get back to you as soon as possible. And I just want to take a little look at the chart. I'm happy to go back and forth a bit as well as I go. So, okay, let's jump in. I think the thing that obviously it sort of jumps out at anyone, regardless of your own level of experience with astrology, is this Pisces part of the chart right now, right? What is going on here? We have so many planets in Pisces. So let me just put the magnifier there and we'll go through it a little bit. So my hope is that if you are learning astrology at all, that my videos will be helpful. But also if you just enjoy hearing about astrology and hearing about sort of like your horoscope, that these videos will work for you as well. My hope is that it works for both and that these live chats sort of feel like just hanging out with your friend who happens to know astrology. So anyway, let's talk about this incredibly busy fifth house. So there's so much here. Let me just quickly run through what's here. We have Neptune, the North Node, Mercury, Saturn, and the Sun. And the fifth house for you is Pisces ruled. And the fifth house is a very interesting house. It's all about the joy that we get from the things that we create. So fun shows up here and joy, like our leisure time, what we do for pleasure and enjoyment. Our creativity shows up in this house and sign, and also your children. So obviously right now, there's a tremendous amount of energy going to those themes. And we're going to have I have to move my magnifier out of the way for a second. We're going to have a new moon soon in this house and sign. This moon right now is getting closer and closer, moving this way to conjoin with the sun. And when that happens, we have a new moon. So that's going to even sort of ignite this house a little bit more. Those luminaries always kind of bring things to light. The luminaries being the sun and the moon. They kind of illuminate the signature, bring it a little more to the forefront to be dealt with. And also this new moon that we're building to in just a couple of days, it's about to be active when the moon moves into Pisces, maybe tomorrow, with all these planets here. There's just so much potential for dreaming about the future in new ways, for healing things from the past, letting go of things. There's so much activity in Pisces and Aries coming in. It's like there's so much happening right now that's all about endings and beginnings. But Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac. And many of these planets are getting ready to move on to Aries. And they're sort of sharing what they've learned with each other here at the very end of the zodiac. I always like to think of the houses as actual houses. You know, picture an actual home. And this is a home that is a Pisces home. And all of these planets you can sort of personify and imagine them hanging out inside the house. And this is the last house on the block, right? What happens next is we go around back to the beginning in Aries and we sort of start all over again, sort of like in Monopoly when you go around go, and you come back to the beginning when you're at the end. So Pisces is about endings. And with all of these planets here, I mean, Mercury and Venus are going to be retrograde in March, and they will be in Aries and in Pisces. The North Node just came from Pisces into Aries. Neptune and Saturn are about to go in, and then there'll be retrogrades and forward again. There's just so much happening between these two houses and signs. So, an amazing time for you to do anything creative. Absolutely amazing. It could actually be a transformative couple of months for you in that sense, Scorpio, where you're working on some projects maybe that were started before, but now you're finishing them, or you're continuing some work from the past in some kind of way. There's also just such positive potential with children to sort of move into like a higher, more spiritual relationship almost. We're doing so much work right now with this South Node in Virgo. Let me just add that to the chart since we're talking about it directly. And I'm just really enjoying the signature of the South Node in Virgo. I think it's so great and supportive for all of the other work that we're all doing. The South Node in Virgo, whenever the South Node is moving through a sign, basically it's a little bit easier to let go of the negative sides of that signature. And that allows for more space for the positive. So negative, more challenging shadow sides of Virgo, we all sort of have the potential right now to put down a little bit of perfectionism, over planning, criticizing others, but more than anything, being too hard on ourselves. And there's something about the releasing of all of that that does help to open up across the way everything that's happening over here in Pisces. And that's what we're moving towards, the North Node. We're letting go of the South Node, which allows for more space for genuine service, authentic connection with others, those positive sides of Virgo. But also, the energy sort of pinging across the chart over here to the North Node, which is the direction which we should be going, which is the highest vibrations of Pisces, right? Spirituality, connection with others and with the divine and with the highest sides of ourself. The dreaminess, sort of this ability to come in and out of the world, of the real world, a really high level creativity and playfulness and joyfulness. And so that energy coming here into your fifth house could be amazing for your relationship with your children, amazing for your creativity. And however it's hitting, I think it really might have quite a lot to do with you just finding your joy and your pleasure and your fun more and more now. It almost makes me think of like sort of coming into a place of a thriving mode rather than a surviving mode where you can, and it's interesting that in some ways this is an energy that's happening for everyone. Yet we're at such a critical time in the world. There's so much difficult stuff happening. But it's like the astrology sort of suggests, and I think that this is making sense to me on some level, that we're sort of understanding now that the peace has to start from the inside. And then we have more of our genuine gifts to share with the world. If we can find the peace on our own, which sometimes requires really taking some time away, really taking some time for quiet, not running around and rushing around and doing a million things and checking a million things off a to-do list, that isn't always what does it. We have to do what we have to do, and being caught up on our list and being responsible certainly helps us be more peaceful. But at some point also, I don't know, it's like there's something that suggests right now that caring for ourselves, then we have more to give in the outside world, rather than sort of being reactive to what's happening in the world and just trying to push through and do as much as we possibly can. But I also think it's sort of natural to be pinging back and forth between those two energies a little bit. Um, a few other things I want to say about this chart, but I'm going to actually let go of this magnifying glass because it's blocking so much. So let's lose these for a second. One thing I want to say is that right now, today, the 25th of February, all of the planets are direct, all of them. And this is only going to be the case for a few days. On March 1st, Venus will station retrograde. Actually, you know what? Those are the planets I want to circle right now. I want to circle Venus and I want to circle Mars. Let's talk about them for a second. So Venus will station retrograde on March 1st, and then we won't have all the planets retrograde anymore. Venus retrograde is quite significant. And Mars has been retrograde, but just yesterday, stationed direct. So now we have this little window where all of our planets are moving forward, which is nice. What's interesting is I just think there's so much weird symmetry. I just want to mention the symmetry between Venus and Mars. It's interesting that the retrograde cycle is so close. It's interesting that they're both in a sign where they're pretty uncomfortable. Venus is in Aries. Mars is the dispositor of this Venus. Venus is doing Mars things. It's not really comfortable. Venus is sort of having to show up and assert her own. It's like we're all right now kind of tapping into our own wants and needs and unique opinions. And that's not really Venus's favorite thing to do. Venus would rather think about the relationships and about everyone involved. And right now she's sort of tuning into her own voice. And then Mars is in Cancer. The moon is the dispositor of this Mars. Mars is doing moon things. So Mars is having a lot of feelings. Mars is resting. Mars is tapping into inner voices, sort of going within, and especially retrograde. It's just not Mars's natural way to be. Mars would rather be just moving forward, making things happen, making progress. And the momentum is a little more for introspection at this time. But there's something kind of interesting about how they're both doing that. It's not a mutual reception. There's something called a mutual reception where they're in each other's signs. And that's not the case here. But it kind of feels like one a little bit. Like it's as if they can help each other out, because one is in the other's house. Well, that's when it's a mutual reception. I won't use that analogy. I'll save that analogy for a mutual reception. But yeah, there's a way in which they sort of have each other covered a little bit. The masculine and the feminine are both doing things a little differently. That's what I keep coming back to with actually so many planets in detriment or fall right now. So many planets are in signs and houses where they're not comfortable. Mercury, Jupiter, Uranus. So that asks us to do things differently. The answer isn't in just sort of continuing to do things the way you've always done. You can make progress that way, but it will require so much effort. It's about sort of doing it a little differently, and maybe in a way that doesn't come supernatural or isn't quite as easy, but through working with all this Pisces energy and caring for yourself, Scorpio, and kind of prioritizing your own fun and leisure, releasing perfectionistic tendencies, overdoing, overplanning, I think it can all really balance. It's an interesting time right here. We're about to move into a period where we'll have Venus retrograde and Mercury will be retrograde as well. The end of March, we have an eclipse basically at the same time in Aries, and basically at the same time Neptune moves into Aries, which is maybe the biggest transit of the year. But we kind of have a little bit of a lull right now. It's just a little bit quiet for the next few days. There are some things happening, but um, it's as if we have enough going on with these planets being in uncomfortable signs, having to do things differently, building to all these retrogrades. It's like, that's enough to focus on. So enjoy the rest a little bit, because I do think that more will be changing as we get into March. And there'll be sort of more to do and more to process with those retrogrades coming up and eclipses. And yeah, I actually just finished recording your March horoscope. It will go up tomorrow, Scorpio. So thank you for being here today. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll be back again tomorrow.